Oh no, look out, it's a landslide! An avalanche! Wooloo and Dubwool are both sheep. Like, yeah, duh. But like with all modern Pokemon, there's a lot more going on with their design inspiration. Why do they roll? Why are they in Galar? Why do Wooloo have these braids and Dubwool all these horns? Well, it's pretty cool, actually. So prepare to get learned. Trust me, this video is going to be woolly great. One of the first things I think about here is how in Age of Empires 2, one of the Britons' civ bonuses is faster shepherds, and the Celts, mainly representing Scotland, have a bonus that makes holding on to sheep a lot easier. If out of everyone they chose to give sheep-related bonuses to the two civilizations that live on Great Britain, clearly that means they have something to do with sheep, which would make Wooloo being in Galar perfect. So what's up with that? Well, long story short, due to the bad weather the British have, cotton does not grow very well in the UK, so their main option for clothes all the way up until industrialization was wool. But actually, it's more than just cotton doesn't grow there easily, it's also that yarn made of wool will still keep you warm even when wet, whereas yarn made of cotton doesn't. And the UK is not only very cold, it's also very, very wet. So of course they love sheep there. And you know what else they love there? Soccer. I mean football. Hence Dubwool's wool resembling a soccer ball. I mean a football. I'm just gonna say soccer. You know, like my analytics say most of you are American. I'll use American terminology when it's not measurements, and even then sometimes it'll be measurements. Metrics still better though. Thing is though, soccer is the most popular sport in the world. What does England have to do with it? I mean, it's not like they controlled most of the world at one point or anything. Oh wait. So the idea of kicking a ball around with some friends against another team, trying to get it into a net or goal of some sort, has existed since at least ancient Rome and ancient China, but it was not until medieval England that it finally started getting actual rules and regulations. Ooh, leave it to the British to make rules and regulations. Daring today, aren't we? This included arguably the most important and defining rule in soccer, the whole no holding the ball in your hands bit, unless of course you're the goalie. When ancient ball kicking was first brought to England, they quickly became obsessed, oftentimes abandoning their duties to play, and it often turned violent, especially when someone's favored team didn't win. At one point, the violence and negligence of duty got so bad that in 1365, King Edward III actually banned the game, but clearly it didn't stick. Plus, the whole idea of a football or soccer association actually started in England too. So all in all, it just feels natural that there would be some Pokemon inspired by this sport in Galar, because the UK has so much to do with the sport. And here, we already have a Pokemon shaped like a sphere and it rolls around, so of course having it evolve into something that looks like a soccer ball makes sense, especially with the gyms in Galar being extremely heavily soccer inspired in both architectural design and the accompanying culture. I mean, you got what? Wooloo Dubwool, there's a line, and you also got the whole Scorbunny line. It's 2 soccer Pokemon in one generation. What's going on? Soccer must be important there or something. And plus, I mean, medieval soccer balls, or what would eventually become soccer balls, were often made of sheep's stomach. So yeah, you are kind of watching a ball of sheep being kicked around in the air back and forth. You could kind of count how many times it goes by, and 492. Oh, I'm getting sleepy. 494. 495. Oh, good thing this mattress from today's sponsor Helix Sleep was here. And it's a good thing they believe in their tried and true mattresses so much that they give them a 10-year warranty, because I think I broke this. Nope, okay, we're good. Helix wants everybody to get a good night's sleep, but the problem is everybody sleeps differently, which is why they offer a quick and easy sleep quiz that matches you or you and a partner to the perfect mattress. When I first heard about ordering mattresses online, I wasn't so sure about it. It sounds like something you should definitely try first. And then what if you don't like it? Packing and returning it sounds like a huge hassle. But then Helix converted me. They offer a 100-night sleep trial to make sure you love it, and then if you don't, they pick it up for you, so even if you don't have an industrial mattress packer, you don't need to worry? That's great! I lent my industrial mattress packer to my uncle, and I have not seen it since. Also, that's how it arrived all those years ago. Vacuum sealed! It's really cool. Just like the cooling cover on the Midnight Lux we went with. It keeps us cool all night, which is important because my wife is fire. Like, literally just a fire elemental in my bed! So if you've been on the lookout for a new sleep station, check out helixsleep.com/Lockstin, and you can get up to $200 off of your Helix mattress. And 2 free pillows! The pillows are very cool, and sluggy too. Sluggy in a good way, like they're really nice to squish, and I like them. Similar to how I like Dubwool, but Dubwool is so specifically a soccer ball that it's a bit silly looking, honestly. Does it have some other justification for this look? Why, yes. It's the specific combination of some specific sheep breeds. This here is the Jacob sheep, a British breed that's pretty unique amongst sheep. It's piebald and usually has more than 2 horns, or it's polycreate if you want to get all fancy. It's just like Dubwool. The bottom pair of horns even wrap under the chin and forward, just like how Dubwool's does. Plus, Jacob sheep are known as an heirloom breed, meaning that they haven't been selectively bred to absolute heck by humans yet, and have remained basically the same for centuries. Some still retain some wild characteristics too, which is why they tend to kind of look a bit more like goats or antelopes compared to your typical sheep. Goats and antelopes are very close relatives to sheep. They're all in the Igodontia half of Bovidae. And this heirloom aspect is also why their spots are just sort of all over the place on their fleece, because there is no regulation on where or how big the spots can be. So like, you might as well make it resemble something when designing a Pokemon based on it. So boom! Soccer ball. Fun fact about this unique heirloom breed, genomic studies show that Jacob sheep is more closely related to breeds of sheep from Africa and Southwest Asia than it is to other British breeds. And speaking of sheep that come from Western Asia, let's talk about the mouflon, which I would argue is one of the most important species of sheep in terms of human cohabitation. Yes, species there, not breed, because the mouflon is not domesticated. It is a wild species of sheep, and it is probably the ancestor of every single breed of modern domestic sheep, and Dubwool has used several bits and aspects from it for its inspiration. For one, the lower of the 2 sets of horns on Dubwool look a lot like the horns on male mouflon, and it has a dark face with a white muzzle just like Dubwool too. And the shade of brown on Dubwool is very reminiscent of the brown fur that most mouflon subspecies possess. Also, this Pokemon's name in French is Mouflon, a combination of their word for sheepskin, soft, and the mouflon. Also, if you look close at the bigger male mouflon, you'll see that the fur on their chest is longer and thicker than the rest of their bodies, and also that often ends with this tuft at the bottom, and Dubwool has that too. It also looks a bit similar to the ties on the end of a headscarf that babushkas wear, which, like sheep, is also associated with old-timey women who work hard, often in the fields or doing yarn work, with yarn made from sheep's wool. See where I'm going with this? Also, it makes Dubwool look kindly and non-threatening, despite a bit of a grumpy expression, which fits in with the fact that it doesn't like to fight, and that its horns are just for show, according to the Pokedex. It's like how a babushka will playfully slap your fingers away when you try to take a piece of food she's making, but then pretends not to notice when you try to grab it later. This motherly or grandmotherly aspect is a natural progression of the childlike aspects of Wooloo. Wooloo! Wooloo is such a fun name, right? Wooloo! Wooloo! This is 2 Age of Empires references in one video. So many O's. It's wool, which you use in looms, and all of those O's next to each other sort of resemble a field of very round Wooloo. They're so round, so easy to roll. Why do they roll? Why do the mountain goats in Elden Ring roll? We'll get to that. Let's talk Wooloo origins. Wooloo is heavily based on the Valet Blacknose, otherwise known as the Wallister Schwarzkopfschaf. It's originally from Switzerland, and it's a dual-purpose breed, meaning that it's raised both for wool and meat, and records of them go all the way back to 1400 AD. But they weren't recognized as their own breed until 1962. You can tell Wooloo is based on a Valet Blacknose because of its distinctive, cute little black face and ears on a background of a white body. They also got their cute little black legs, though actual Valet sheep typically only have black ankles and the front of the knees instead of all of the legs, but we'll give the Pokemon Company a pass since making the whole leg black sort of streamlines the design a lot, and also it's stinking cute. Notably, the females also have black dots on their tails, and Wooloo's tail is black. The Valet Blacknose is described as robust with a large-framed physique, which definitely describes our fluffy round child. I mean, look at it, it's shaped like a friend! Wooloo's ears stick out to the sides and are shaped very similarly to the Valet sheep's ears too. Wooloo's horns aren't spiraled like Valet's are, but they're so small, just like how Valet's horns are small for a sheep's. But also, Wooloo is how the Pokemon is born. It is young, so it is based on a young sheep. The horns haven't grown in yet. And also, Wooloo's bangs and hair braid thingies frame its face in much the way that Valet valet sheep's fleece framed their cute little faces. But speaking of Wooloo's braids, remember how I said the valet was a Swiss breed? Well, so is this hairstyle. Very traditionally Swiss, especially in the context of little girls and young women. It's also quite popular in Scandinavia, which is notable as they used a lot of wool also, and Galar has quite a lot of Scandinavian Pokemon throughout it too, due to good old Viking history. Anyway, the hair is cute, and they look like a combination of traditional braids like this, and also this hairstyle, which seems to be called a bubble ponytail. It's a common way to make a little girl's hair be out of her face, but less intensive than your typical braid. Bonus fact! Daily Discoveries, a fashion company in Galar, uses one of these braid bubble ponytail things as their logo, because Wooloo is heavily tied to clothing and fashion in Galar. Also, if you ask me, Wooloo's braids also resemble yarn hanks. Basically, it's another way of storing and selling yarn. It's less likely to roll away if it's not a ball, after all. But speaking of yarn, rolling away down a hill like a bunch of Wooloo. There's another reason that it rolls. We're stacking layers of cake. Can it be lasagna? Yeah, we're stacking layers of lasagna. That's so much better than cake. It's a pasta cake. But also, the valet's wool is long and wavy, and once it's processed and turned into yarn, it is considered exceptionally good for weaving. Hence, Wooloo possibly having loom in its name. A loom is what you use to weave on, using yarn or thread. Wooloo's wool is described as surprisingly strong, and it is said that its curly fleece makes such an effective cushion that this Pokemon could fall off a cliff and stand right back up at the bottom unharmed. And their page on Pokemon.com states, Wooloo live as a herd and mimic the actions of their trainer or herd leader. They dislike conflict, and if they need to escape from enemies, they will simply roll away. Again with the rolling! Like, yeah, it evolves into a soccer ball and yarn balls are a thing, and that's enough of a reason, I suppose, but what led them down this design path in the first place? Is it just because wool rolling is a thing that you do after shearing it? Is it because a rolling sheep or lamb pull toy is an old vintage European toy? It's not like you ever see sheep rolling down a hillside on a daily basis or anything, because they do sometimes. Accidents happen. And they do sometimes roll around to play, but more often than not, if a sheep rolls over, it'll struggle to get up from this position, and they need to be picked up by their shepherd. Though I guess if one sheep started rolling around, the others would too. Sheep are herd animals and stick together, just like Wooloo. This herd behavior is very clearly shown in the Twilight Wings episode Buddy, when Hop's Wooloo runs away due to jealousy over Hop's admiration of Leon's Charizard. It eventually ends up injured in a field full of Wooloo, owned by the Turffield gym leader Milo. They get Milo's attention by bleeding, showing that they are caring for those of their species, and it's just like real-world domesticated sheep, who, famously, will easily adopt new sheep into their herd. They all just love each other. There's fancy loving sheep. And so, the fact that Wooloo mimic the actions of their trainer or herd leader is really, really accurate to real domesticated sheep, which have been known to follow a clueless leader sheep into danger. They do not know any other way to be than just blindly follow the leader. And the leader doesn't know any way to be besides just blindly sort of following the rest of the herd, so they kind of just as a group. Living life that way, growing wool. So much wool. In fact, the official page for Wooloo stated that the white fleece that covers their bodies grows throughout their lives, and it will fully grow back in 3 months, even if the Wooloo has been completely shorn, which isn't all that far off from actual sheep. There are a few species that need to be shorn 2 or 3 times a year because their fleece just grows that fast. And if it's not shorn and they're just left to their own devices, they will suffer, like Shrek, the New Zealand sheep that went missing for 6 years. Poor thing, it was just a giant ball of wool. A giant ball of wool. And balls roll around, which I guess is why the Wooloo line rolls around. Balls of yarn, balls of soccer, balls. Either way, though, I love Wooloo. It is so cute. But what do you think? Let me know down below, and never stop using your noggin.